everybody and welcome to number 27. Today, thanks to MH Car Sales, I'm going to be able to take out a C63 AMG, which is a 2015, and a 2004 or something like that, E46 M3. It's quite an interesting test for a few reasons. First of all, I used to own one of these. This is actually the car that started off my 12 cars series on the channel. Have a look at that if you haven't already. Now, when I had this car originally, I did love it, and it was one of the cars that I always really wanted, but I kind of fell out of love with it in the end, and I'll tell you why when I'm driving it. BMW's M division have always been way ahead of the pack. So from the first M3 to this, the E46 M3, which for me was kind of like the sweet spot and the pinnacle of the M3s, nothing else really compared. When you look at what was a competitor for this at the time, which was a C55 AMG, that was a car that was completely dominated by the engine. It was fun, but it wasn't accomplished. It was nothing like this. It was a car that you would buy just because it was a bit like a cartoon character. It was outlandish, but it wasn't actually that good. Forget it on track. This could do absolutely everything, and I think it's probably one of the most handsome saloons that I've ever seen. Those blistered arches, the stance, the purpose of it, fantastic. Problem is, since then, BMW's M has really started to lose that aura of perfection that it's always had. The latest M3 M4 was criticised for being, I don't know if soulless is the right word, it probably isn't. It just wasn't right. It was fast, it felt dangerous, there was some excitement there, but it just didn't add up to the kind of package that we were looking for. Whereas it seems that AMG have just gone from strength to strength. The C63 was a first real proper accomplished challenger to M division, in my view anyway. And since then, they have evolved into this. All the manufacturers, unfortunately, have now gone with turbo power. But having said that, Merc have had the courage to stick with a V8. And this car, I think, better embodies the whole spirit of AMG. They've managed to retain that, whereas BMW have lost a bit of their edge with them. Now, the question is, these are both five-seater cars. They could both go on track. They're both fast road cars. Is it worth paying the extra for this? Gonna take out the M3 first of all, and then the C63. Well, it's been a long time since I've been on an E46, so I'm really curious to see how I get on. This SMG system does really feel quite dated. It's not that bad, really. I think that they're most annoying in town. What absolutely surprises me is just how good the steering feels. One of the things I most hated about my car, is that I thought the steering was lacking in feel and just not direct enough, and this feels so precise and just really nice. I don't know if it's because this particular car, it's got some aftermarket rubber and wheels and stuff, and coilovers as well, I think, so maybe it's had the geo done a little bit, but it feels sharp and it feels nice. It feels really natural. I really like it a lot. That flat six, so revvy. Doesn't feel quite as fast as I remember. Maybe that's the SMG gearbox? No, it can't be, because it's basically an automated manual. Essentially, I'm loving it. I am loving it. I had a bit of a bad experience with mine because, as I said, I fell out of love with it because the steering just, I wasn't happy with the way the car steered and it felt like it was just too big. But actually, this feels really good fun. This is what an M car should be. Now, in terms of looks, these have dated a little bit perhaps, but they still look amazing. I don't think there's anything quite like it in terms of getting a design just right. It just feels so nice to drive. I'm really impressed, and I kind of got my faith back because I was kind of a bit disappointed that I fell out of love with E46s, and this car's just brought it back to me. Now, it has a few rattles, the interior's a bit dated, but in terms of actual driving fun, this trumps a lot of the modern stuff that I've driven, if not most of it. Just makes me realise how numb but also not just how numb, but how imprecise the steering on my M1 through 5i is. It's I don't understand why they can't make steering that feels like this anymore. Why? I know it's the assistance, but it can't just be that. Surely they can do it. And when the E46 first came out, people went absolutely crazy bonkers about it. It was an amazing shape that I don't think has ever been bettered in terms of just improving a standard saloon. It looked so right. It looked like the E46 had always been designed to look like the M3. The arches didn't look bolted on. It looked like that's what you wanted. So aggressive, so purposeful. You had that screaming straight six and a really taut chassis that did what you wanted it to do. It was the BMW Motorsport division at its best. Since then, I think things have been slowly sort of hedging downwards a little bit. So AMG have caught up. Let's see what the C63 feels like. When AMG first came out with the C63, the version before this one, it stunned everyone. Finally, there was an AMG that we didn't need to make excuses for. It wasn't just a brawny brute, although it certainly was that. There was more depth to that car, and that engine was absolutely stunning. This is the modern, it's more than a facelift. This is the new version of the C63, which was a massive hit for Mercedes. And they went from that naturally aspirated, monstrous V8 to a twin turbo, tiny 4-litre V8. But they managed to retain a lot of that character from that car. So I'm going to chuck it into Sport Plus, which gives me a little bit of fun. These are extremely tail happy, so you got to be really careful because it just takes very little provocation for that back end to come out. Straight away, one thing that I notice is that the steering is, well, it's not very nice. It's got some weight to it, but it's just that 10,000 pound M3 was, you know, that had a steering like it felt like you were in a go-kart, whereas this, it's just, oh, there's a deer in the road. Oh, and another one. Right, let's get back to it. So that M3, that cheap M3, the steering felt completely unmasked, clean, crisp. This is completely the opposite. It feels as if you're sort of trying to go through treacle, but it doesn't really, you don't feel anything. I mean, it works, but it's not nice. The engine really is pretty muscular. Whoa. And it's weird because they've done their best to make it feel like a hooligan by giving it a synthesized exhaust note. There's pops and bangs and crackles. But you can really feel the weight. It's 1,600 kilos, I think, this car, so it's almost 200 kilos heavier than an M4, or 150 kilos heavier than an M4, and it's quite a bit heavier than that E46 that I just drove, and you can really feel it. This has its charms, for sure. The engine is monstrous. The interior, well, it's incredible. I mean, I feel like I'm in an S-Class, which is a good thing and not such a good thing. It's beautifully finished, it looks amazing, but that's not really what I look for in a sports car, to be quite honest. It just feels like a missile. That engine it's a monster. Wow. I don't want to come up with the usual cliches, but I can't help it. And again, like all these other modern cars, this just feels like a game. It's monstrous and it's impressive, and it's unbelievably fast. And the back end is, it's as if you're driving on ice. I wouldn't want to drive it without any driver aids at all, I really wouldn't. But yeah, is it worth 37 grand more? No. It's much better looking, the interior is absolutely fantastic, it's modern, it's comfortable. But if you like your driving, you will enjoy the M3 more than you will enjoy this. Trust me when I'm saying that. It is just the truth. And on that bombshell, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, please do the Instagram, please tell me that I'm an idiot and I've got it completely wrong. Modern cars are best maybe, but I don't know, that's how I feel about it. At the time there was the, fuck, what was it called? The when the latest iteration, when the monstrous 6-cylinder V8, when the latest when the latest version, whenever you look at what was the competitor for this at the time, for example, which was the C55, fucking hell, was it? Yeah, it was.